Catherine irritatedly threw the backpack on the floor. She had to put up with this man for so many years. How much longer would it be until her mother realized that he was a horrible person? "I'm telling you once again that I don't want him to come to my prom. He's not my father and never will be," Catherine said again to her mother. Emily looked at her daughter, frowning sadly. "Catherine, darling, don't say that. Matthew does everything for you, and he treats you like his blood daughter. Thanks to him, you can go to the prom. We can afford to buy a fancy dress for you, and we have everything we need. Don't say that. It's not right. I hate him. He doesn't deserve you. He's taking advantage of you, and you don't realize it. You're just a maid to him, keeping the house clean and serving him. When will you understand that? It's been 5 years, and it's like you don't realize it." Catherine continued her speech, hoping for a miracle. But her mother only shook her head. "We found ourselves in a terrible situation after your father died, and it was Matthew who helped us, and we should be grateful to him. He married me, gave us a home, and even offered his last name to you, but you refused. You should understand that he loves us, maybe in some unusual way, but he does, that's for sure." Catherine kicked the backpack away with her foot and said nothing. There was silence in the room for a few minutes. And then her mother left the room, leaving Catherine alone with her thoughts. Catherine collapsed on the bed, burying her face into the pillow. She screamed, letting out her anger, but the pillow muffled her scream. A few minutes later, Catherine rolled over onto her back. No, she will never accept this person. Her mother should not even try to change her mind. Her stepfather had never done anything wrong to her. From the outside, it seemed to everyone that he really loved his wife and her daughter. But Catherine inherited her biological father's intuition. She and her mother were alive only because of his intuition. On the day of the accident, Emily and Catherine wanted to go with him, but he said no. That's why he was the only one who died in that terrible accident, and Catherine and her mother were left alone in this world. And now that gut feeling was telling Catherine that her stepfather wasn't so innocent, that he was hiding something. Catherine saw something alarming in his eyes, even though everything looked perfect. She thought he was a hypocritical liar, but her mother didn't think so. Besides, Catherine had no evidence to show her mother Matthew's true nature. Catherine sighed heavily and stared at the ceiling. She just didn't have the energy to fight with her mother anymore. It was hurting them both. Catherine decided that she had to endure the presence of her stepfather at her prom. She will endure, just so her mother will stop crying. But Catherine would turn 18 soon, and then no one would make her do anything she didn't want to do. Catherine came into the kitchen, hugged her mother standing at the sink, and said, "All right, let Matthew go to my prom, but don't ask me to make any more concessions to him." Emily hugged her daughter tightly. Everything would be all right, and Catherine would soon see that. 6 months passed, and events developed rapidly. Catherine finished high school with honors, passed her entrance exams perfectly, and was accepted into a prestigious university. Her stepfather was very happy for her. His smile looked so sincere. But Catherine saw some danger in his eyes. Something kept alarming her. But Catherine did not tell her mother about her feelings anymore. It was not a good idea. It was better to keep things to herself. Catherine had already finished her first semester. It was easy for her, but she could have done even better if she had tried harder. But Catherine had a new life, new acquaintances, and first crushes. She met a guy she was crazy about. The relationship between them was just starting to develop, and one day the guy suggested spending the whole day together. To do that, she had to skip her studies at the university. Catherine didn't worry about that since she could study the missed material from her textbooks, but her mother and stepfather shouldn't know that she was skipping classes. For some reason, her stepfather asked about her studies almost every day. Everyone got up at the same time that morning. Catherine was pretending that she was going to university. Emily was going to work, and Matthew had the day off. But he was going to be away on some business for the day, dropping Emily off at work. Catherine left the house first. She was going to walk around for about an hour so her mother and stepfather would have time to leave, and then she wanted to go back to change. She had a date coming up, and she wanted to look perfect. Catherine wandered dreamily in the park not far from her house, constantly glancing at her watch. Finally, 1 hour passed, and Catherine hurried quickly toward the house. There was silence in the house. No one was there. Catherine went to her room to change into a beautiful dress that made her look perfect. "Today is such a great day, and I have to look excellent," the girl was talking to herself, not even trying to control her emotions. She stood in front of the mirror for a while, looking at herself from every angle, and then she went to her mother's bedroom to find that incredible red lipstick. A few minutes passed in search of the lipstick, when suddenly, Catherine heard the front door open. The girl froze because she knew she would be in big trouble if anyone saw her at home. She looked at herself in the mirror, trying not to make a sound, and then she heard her stepfather's voice. Damn, her worst fear had come true. If he saw her, she'd be in trouble. Catherine rushed to her mother's wardrobe. She would have to hide so no one would see her. She quickly hid in the closet and waited for her stepfather to leave. But events developed differently. Catherine heard a woman's voice. She first thought it was her mother, but then the woman's laughter convinced her that it was someone else. She frowned, trying to figure out what was going on. And a few minutes later, the door opened, and Matthew and an unfamiliar tall woman walked into the room. Catherine held her breath. Her heart was beating like crazy. So, Matthew is cheating on Mom. How did he have the nerve to bring her home? What a bastard, the girl thought to herself. Catherine closed her eyes, trying not to think about what was happening. But then she came to her senses. What was she doing? What a fool! She had to take this chance. She had to act decisively. Catherine forced herself to open her eyes and took her phone out of her pocket. She immediately switched it to silent mode so that no sound would give away her presence. Then, she turned on the camera on the phone. Sneakily, Catherine opened the wardrobe door a little and began filming the video. The visibility was great. Catherine took a video showing the faces of both of them. Then she took a couple more pictures. It was disgusting to watch this happen, but she needed to get the evidence. Now she could show her mother that Matthew was a horrible person, and that he didn't love her mother at all, but was taking advantage of her. An hour later, Matthew and his mistress left. Catherine came out of the wardrobe and ran out of the house. She decided to cancel her date with her boyfriend, so she called him and told him that she wasn't feeling well. She needed time to think about the situation. Now Catherine could break her mother's life by showing her the true face of her stepfather. But would she break her life to save it? Half an hour later, she called her mother. "Mom, can you get off work early?" Emily startled. "Catherine, what's wrong? Are you okay? Did someone hurt you?" Catherine hurried to comfort her mother. No, Mom, I'm fine, but I need to talk to you. I'll wait for you at the cafe near your office." An hour later, Catherine and her mother were sitting at a table. The girl didn't know how to start a conversation. Emily looked at her daughter in confusion, waiting for the conversation to begin. Finally, Catherine pulled herself together. She took her mother's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Mom, forgive me for what I'm about to do, but I can't lie to you. Believe me, you deserve better, and you will have a wonderful life if you choose the right path. I will always be there for you. You have to understand that you and I will be fine, but only if you believe that and stop clinging to the past. Please listen to me and understand that I want us to be happy." And Catherine told her mother everything. How she skipped her classes, came home, and how her stepfather came home with that woman. She showed her all the pictures and videos she had taken. Emily listened silently to everything Catherine told her. Not a muscle flinched on her face. She watched all the pictures and videos in cold blood. Her hands didn't even tremble. There was a painful silence. Catherine looked at her mother, and Emily was looking down at her hands. There were no tears, no words, just an ominous silence. After about 10 minutes, Emily raised her eyes and sighed heavily. She took her purse and stood up. "Let's go home. We have a lot to do. We need to pack. Everything has to be done quickly, without wasting a minute. You have classes at the university on Monday. We have to find an apartment and move in over the weekend. I don't know how we can do everything by ourselves, but we have no choice. Come on, let's go, sweetheart." Catherine looked at her mother in surprise. The girl smiled because now she was sure they would start a new life. A year passed, and Catherine was waiting for her mom in that cafe near Emily's office. She was in high spirits. Her mom was walking briskly down the sidewalk. A man walked beside her and held her hand. He gave her something, and Emily laughed, stopped, hugged and kissed him. Catherine smiled, remembering the events of the last year. She remembered how her stepfather and mother had argued that day, how they had packed their bags, and how quickly they had moved into the apartment they found accidentally. The owner of that apartment turned out to be Catherine's professor at the university. Mr. Simmons was Mom's age, and he showed real kindness by not charging them for the rent because he sincerely wanted to help them. After a while, feelings broke out between Emily and Mr. Simmons. It took time for Emily to trust him, but now they were inseparable. Catherine was really happy that it all worked out that way because Mr. Simmons was a decent man, and he made her mom happy. And now they have become a real family. "So, are we going to celebrate, or are you going to keep dreaming?" said Emily, hugging her daughter from behind. Catherine snapped out of her memories. She kissed her mother and smiled at Mr. Simmons. "We'll celebrate your marriage all night long," the girl answered, rejoicing in their happiness.